Can anyone find the senator from Chatham? You want to explain it, son? you pronounce all those prescription drugs? $378. I'll go ahead and Sergeant at Arms, let's see if we can gather a quorum and we'll proceed with our business. Find your buddy. Find Senator Carter. There you go. There you go.
Secretary Reed, Senate Bill 378.
Senate Bill 378 by Senators Carter the First and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to controlled substances so as to revise the definition and for other purposes. The Senate Health and Human Services Committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senate Health and Human Services Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 378. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to controlled substances so as to revise the definition to provide for certain changes to the definition of written prescriptions for dangerous drugs and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from the First.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring before you today Senate Bill 378. This is your typical cleanup bill. It does two things to the Controlled Substances Act. The first thing that it does is just to simply, at the encouragement of the Attorney General's office, simply specifies and clarifies that pharmacists in the state of Georgia are certified to fill out-of-state prescriptions. That was one thing that the Attorney General's office wanted us to clarify in the Controlled Substances Act, and we did that here. The second thing that this bill does is simply to bring the state of Georgia into compliance with the federal laws governing samples that are used in physicians' practices so often. So those are the only two things that this bill does. It's a simple cleanup bill done at the request of the Attorney General's office, and I would ask for your favorable support of Senate Bill 378.
Do you have questions, Senator? Chair recognizes Senator from the 2nd.
Do you yield, sir?
I do.
Don't we already fill prescriptions out of state currently?
We do, and we have done that for many, many years. However, the Attorney General's office is concerned that if we don't clarify this, that perhaps we would be liable. So he has asked us to simply clarify this in the statute so that there will be no question about it.
Do you yield, sir?
I yield.
Liable in what sense, sir?
Well, if someone were to bring it up, then they feel like if we don't clarify it, that perhaps we would not be authorized to be filling out-of-state prescriptions. Yes, we've done it for many, many years, and we continue to do it. It's just a technicality.
Do you further yield, sir?
I further yield.
Who is the person that will find us guilty of breaking a law?
I do not know that.
So we're introducing legislation that we can identify the who will.
Once again, let me explain that in the encouragement of the Attorney General's office, they have asked us to clarify this in the code so that there will not be any question that we are authorized to fill out-of-state prescriptions from out-of-state prescribers.
Okay. Do you further yield, sir?
I do.
To clarify, you are legislating something that we already do.
We already do it, yes, sir, that is correct. However, we want clarification within the code that it is legal to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 11th.
Would the senator yield?
I yield.
Senator, on page 1, line 13, you added veterinarian. Does this then give my veterinarian the power to prescribe medications for me?
No, it does not give him. I hesitate to answer that. I don't know the relationship between the senator from the 11th and his veterinarian. However, I will say that most veterinarians write prescriptions and most pharmacists fill prescriptions from veterinarians for pets.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd.
Do you?
I yield.
Senator, isn't it true that I have been out of state and tried to fill a prescription before, and that can be a problem? And so what we're doing is embracing what we already do, but we're doing the right thing because other states, there's not always a reciprocity between states on prescriptions.
That is a very good point. I appreciate the senator from the 33rd bringing that up. There are some states that will not honor out-of-state prescriptions.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I would appreciate your support of Senate Bill 378.
The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection agreed? The Report of Committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All of those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 0, and this bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 382.
Senate Bill 382 by Senator Schaefer, the 48th, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 46 of the OCGA relating to organization of members of the Public Service Commission and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Reapportionment and Redistricting recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 382. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 46 of the OCGA related to organization of members of the Public Service Commission and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Gwinnett, senator from the 48th.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, it's my pleasure to present Senate Bill 382, which redraws the residency districts for the Georgia Public Service Commission. Members of the Public Service Commission are elected statewide, but they are required to live in one of 5 districts. These districts are being redrawn so that they have a balanced population. This map came about, originated this summer when the members of the Public Service Commission brought the former chairman of the Senate Reapportionment Committee a proposed map. The current chairman worked on that map by making sure that every county was unsplit. That was the major change from the map they brought us to the map that's being presented to you today. We made sure that there were no counties split. We tried to draw districts that were compact and contiguous and make sure that each and current member of the Public Service Commission lived in his or her own district. The bill comes to you with the recommendation, a do-pass recommendation from the Senate from the Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting Committee, and I am here to urge your favorable consideration.
Chair recognizes senator from 33rd.
Senator Yield,
Yes, sir.
I asked this question for a reason that some might not understand right now, but did the PSC have great input into helping to draw the maps?
Yes, we started with their map. Their map split at least one and maybe more than one county. And so we corrected that by unsplitting the county, and the result of that is what you have in front of us today.
But they did have great input into it, Senator, is that right?
They had input. There were 2 members of the Public Service Commission who were at the hearing where this map was considered. There were no objections raised. I know the chairman of the committee sent out a notice to the entire Senate at the beginning of the session soliciting feedback from senators on this map. We only got one senator who offered feedback, and that feedback was incorporated.
So my last question, and pardon me, but I got a call from, isn't it true, I got a call from my member of the Public Service Commission, and I haven't been able to get back with him. Is there a majority, a consensus on this now?
No member of the Public Service Commission has made an objection known to me.
No further questions, Senator. Questions on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in the report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are the objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary in the machine. Yeah, they do. On the passage of the bill, the Yeas are 36 and the nays are 15. And this bill, having received Rex Constitution majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read a resolution as we recognize some great state champions.
Senate Resolution 965 by Senator Staten of the 18th and others. Resolution recognizing and commending the Tatnall Square Academy Trojans football team on their GISA AAA state championship and for other purposes. Whereas through perseverance and iron determination, the Tatnall Square Academy Trojans football team finished their 11-2 season by winning the GISA AAA state championship. Whereas the phenomenal performance of the team is a clear indication of the outstanding athletic ability, the dedication and hard work, and the unity of purpose and spirit of each member of the team, their superb offensive and defensive talents, and the astute direction of head coach Barney Hester and assistant coaches Jarrett Moore, John Hankinson, Tyler Van Duzen, Jim Intorica, Wes Parker, Walt Miller, Hank Arrington, Don Marchman, Tim Pruitt, and Jody Burnett. Whereas this year's state championship team included team captains Andrew Layson, John Rader, Mason Selby, and Ryan Knapp, 5 All-State team members, Andrew Layson, Tyler Ward, John Rader, Cole Waddell, and Jeremy Nabel, and 17 seniors. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body congratulate the Tatnall Square Academy Trojans football team on their GISA AAA state championship and extend their sincerest best wishes for future success.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Call upon the distinguished senator from the 18th to recognize our great champions.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. It is indeed a pleasure and honor to have with me today on the podium representatives from a great high school football tradition in the state of Georgia, the Tatnall Square Trojans from Macon, Georgia. They had an 11-2 season this year, and of course they won the GISA AAA state championship for the season. But that's not all of the story for this great school and their great football tradition. In fact, they have won GISA state championships for 11 times. And a lot of this, of course, is due to the hard work of some of these young men behind me, but also on the part of a great coaching staff and coaching tradition. We're pleased to have head coach Barney Hester here today, and we're going to let him say a word in just a moment. But with him or some of his team captains, we simply want to congratulate this great team, this great school. I appreciate the senator from the 26th joining me. All of the tradition here in a school that not only promotes athleticism, but promotes values and all of the things that are important to Georgia. I want to ask all the members of the team, the remaining members of the team, and others from Tatnall Square who are in our gallery, if they would stand. And senators, I would ask you to join me in welcoming and recognizing this great championship team from Tatnall Square. Coach Hester.
Thank you all very much for having us today. We are very proud of the fact that we accomplished our goal this year, winning the state championship. We have approximately 90 kids with us today, 52 players. We have managers, statisticians, trainers, cheerleaders. We have the whole group. It's a team effort for us to be successful. We're excited that we were allowed to come up here today. This is a big deal for us. We won our first state championship in 1988, and I can promise you those guys in 1988 remember coming to Atlanta to the state capitol and receiving a proclamation. We appreciate so much you having us. Thank you very much.
Good job. Thank you. Good job, guys. Good luck. All right. Enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Best wishes to all of you, okay? Congratulations. Secretary will read Senate Bill 385.
Senate Bill 385 by Senator Schaefer of the 48th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to provide for the confidentiality of certain records of the Commissioner of Insurance and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Insurance and Labor Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 385. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to provide for the confidentiality of certain records of the Commissioner of Insurance to extend to state, federal, or international regulatory law enforcement and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes the senator from Sweet Bottom Plantation, the senator from the 48th.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, it's my privilege to present Senate Bill 385, which is the Georgia Insurance Department's annual housekeeping bill. This bill really does four things. It clarifies the confidentiality of working papers used in the preparation of final exam of market conduct and financial examinations. The final report is public record, but the working papers used in connection with that in preparing that report are confidential, as is the case with virtually every other state in the country, and is required by the national accreditation standards for insurance departments. It also clarifies that, but it also makes clear that those working papers can be shared with other regulators in the event of an investigation or cross-state examination. The bill also eases the administrative burden of surplus lines brokers in collecting premium taxes across state lines for policies that are issued covering risks in multiple states. And the final thing that this housekeeping bill does is provide additional mechanisms for ceding reinsurance risk to international reinsurers. We actually have a large European reinsurer that is domiciled. Its port of entry here is Atlanta, and we're hoping to make our reinsurance industry make Georgia more attractive to that industry. If there are no questions, I urge your favorable consideration of the bill, which has the due pass recommendation of the Senate Insurance and Labor Committee. And if there are no questions, I yield the well.
The question is on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree to report of committee, which is favorable pass of the bill. The chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, it's a yeas are 53, nays are 0, and this bill happens to erect a constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 402.
Senate Bill 402 by Senator Golden of the 8th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 20 of Title 47 of the OCGA, the Public Retirement Systems Investment Authority Law, so as to provide a short title and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Retirements recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Committee offers the following substitute. The Senate Retirement Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 402. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 20 of Title 47 of the OCGA, the Public Retirement Systems Investment Authority Law, so as to provide a short title and for other purposes. This is to certify that this substitute bill is a non-fiscal bill as defined in the Public Retirement Systems Standards Law.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Lowndes County, senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate it. Thank you. I rise to ask for your support for Senate Bill 402, but before I speak to the bill, let me sort of make a personal comment and give you full disclosure. My mother is in a nursing home in Valdosta, and she draws ERS. It is the bulk of the money she receives to pay for her ability to pay for staying in this very nice facility in Valdosta. And so I say all that to say this, that I would do nothing to hurt ERS. In fact, just the opposite is true. This bill is called the ERS Investment Enhancement Authority Act because I want to strengthen ERS to make sure that my mother can stay in that nursing home. I want to strengthen it because there are a lot of retirees all over this state depending on ERS, and there are a lot of people, state employees, that will be retiring that are going to depend on ERS. So this bill is all about strengthening the position of the ERS retirement fund. Let me also say I'm very pleased to say this is a bipartisan effort. We have members from both sides of the aisle on this legislation, and I'm grateful for the very bipartisan approach that's been taken to this bill and for the bipartisan support I have received for this legislation. Let me make a few comments about the bill, but before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of background on it. But bear in mind, 49 states currently, 49 states, their public systems, large public systems, 49 states currently do alternative investments. Only one state does not offer this as an alternative for the investment pros, and that's Georgia. Over 200 foundations all across this country, college foundations from Harvard to Yale, University of Virginia, and even Georgia and Georgia Tech, their foundations offer or use alternative investments in their foundations. And to give you an idea, the University of Georgia, their fund is made up of 52%. 52% is alternative investments, and Georgia Tech's funds at 59%. I can tell you I used to be on the Board of Trustees at Valdosta State, and I was informed they have even gone to alternative investments as part of their portfolio for their foundation. The strength of this bill is it gives a wide variety of investments in alternative investments, which allows us to diversify the assets in this fund. And let me make very clear, this applies only to the ERS. It applies only to ERS. It does not apply to the teacher retirement system of Georgia. Let me stress, it does not apply to TRS, only ERS. Furthermore, this bill has been drafted and crafted very tightly. It allows 1% of the funds per year, 1% per year for a cap of 5%. In other words, it'll take 5 years to get to the 5% cap if the investment pros decide to use this investment. And let me also stress, too, that the ERS Investment Committee voted unanimously asking for this, and the entire ERS board voted unanimously in favor of this legislation. There are some protections in this bill. I've already mentioned that the 1% over 5 years for a cap of 5%, and we've locked down to 5% very tightly. Let me also mention to you, this is very important, understand this, the employee retirement system of Georgia's investment pros will make the decisions how they invest these dollars if they use alternative investments. It's strictly up to them whether they want to use these investment tools and alternative investments. It's strictly up to them, and they will make the decisions where and how they are spent. Now, we did put some safeguards. We made sure that each investment requires at least 4 other investors on the same terms, not affiliated with the insurer, so no lender of last resort situations come up. That's very important. Each investment shall only be made in private pools, and issuers shall have at least $100 million in assets. So these are not going into just some little fund somewhere. The other funds have to at least be $100 million or more, so that means they're very sound in most cases. Also, a code of ethics was adopted relating to the investment and disposing of these investment vehicles. And also, we did not specify any investments based on geography. So let me stress again, too, that this allows the investment pros who have done an outstanding job, I might add, investing those dollars at ERS, this will allow them to make the decisions. Now, let me close with a few facts that I found interesting because, quite frankly, as I said, 5% is the cap. The average for public pension funds in America, the average alternative investments in public pension funds is 13%. We're only going to 5. That's the average, it's 13. And let me give you an idea, too. Another example would be Texas. They have a $110 billion fund. $44 billion is in alternative investments. It's over 40% of the fund. That's the state of Texas. And I might add, they had returned 22% this year, which is outstanding. 22% return. That's Texas, just to give you an idea. I could go through North Carolina and others I've spoken with in the last few days. But an even better, more compelling reason for doing alternative investments, as I said, ERS has already done a great job, but in the last 10 years, and everybody knows what we've gone through in the last 10 years in this country, with the Great Recession, this has been the most difficult 10-year period for stocks you can possibly go. You have to go back past the Great Depression to find a more difficult time for stocks. ERS has had 5.1% return in that 10-year period, which is great. That's very good. But let me give you an idea what Georgia Tech did. Georgia Tech, as I said, 59% of the funds, 59% in alternative investments, returned 8.2%. That's 3.1% better than even ERS and the great pros we have investing those dollars. I think you can tell that this is a very good bill. It's time that we give this opportunity to the ERS investment pros and let the people who know best make those decisions. This is a finely crafted piece of legislation. And Mr. President, with that, I'll offer this up to hope that you will support this committee substitute, the Senate Bill 402, and with that, I'll be glad to yield and try to answer any questions.
No questions, Senator.
Mr. President, thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator in 30 seconds to speak to the bill.
I'd like to commend first the senator from the 8th, and this is a bill that the Senate has passed a number of years. I first saw it in 2006 when I introduced it, and then in 7, 8, 9, and 10, I believe. In 2006, we passed it 48-3 out of this body. The Senate has passed it just about every year over to the House. Just want to underscore a few things that the senator mentioned. There's 6 safeguards in here, 6 safeguards. So if there's any thought that there may be a challenge, there's 6 safeguards to protect the employee retirement system here in Georgia. This class of funds is considered a mainstream asset class. As we've heard, it'll provide a great diversification opportunity that's not available currently to those who direct the ERS system. All statistics show that we have to maintain a 7.5% return annually to keep the fund viable and solid, and we've heard that that has diminished from time to time. This legislation will enable the ERS system to survive for years to come without having to tax individuals across the state of Georgia, without having to add any more funds into it other than which is currently in the law. That is critically important, especially as baby boomers continue to retire. I believe passing this legislation will ensure that the people of the state of Georgia will continue to be good stewards of the retirement system funds, and that we will continue to honor those people that have put in a long-term service into the state, whether it's the teachers, not the teachers because they're excluded, whether it's the employees of this state. And I did mention teachers, but GA has always been neutral on this bill because specifically it excludes their involvement. Once again, I commend this legislation to you. We've passed it a number of times over the last 6 or 8 years, and one of the last times we passed it almost unanimously. We've had our mayor, Kasim Reed, when he was a senator here in this body, was a strong supporter and continues to be so today. With that, once again, I want to commend the senator from the 8th and commend this to you. I'll yield the well.
Questions on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree to report to committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report to committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main questions ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the passage of the bill. Senator, he hit his light. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 4. This bill having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Secretary will read S.R. 646.
Senate Resolution 646 by Senator Rogers of the 21st. A resolution expressing the will of the Senate to ensure the necessary conditions for expanded high-quality digital learning opportunities for the students of this state and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is simply an urging resolution expressing the will of the Senate to support high-quality digital learning and the 10 foundational principles of that were devised by the digital learning group headed up by Governor Wise and Governor Jeb Bush. So if there are no questions, I will yield the well.
No questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is there objection? Agree in the Porter Committee which favorable passage of the resolution? Chairs none. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are resolution. The yeas are 49 and the nays are 1. This resolution, after received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read the final bill of the day, House Bill 829.
House Bill 829 by Representative Lane of the 167th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the composition and number of state house districts approved August 24th, 2011, and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Reapportionment and Redistricting recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th, Chairman of the Reapportionment Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to present and ask your favorable decision on House Bill 829. This is a bill that's been anticipated, I believe, since the close of our special session. There was discussion about the House adjusting their maps at that point in time. They have presented us a bill that does just that. The changes are basically in two areas. The Hall County area is cleaned up. This map results in less precincts being split. It also reduces the delegation in Hall County. Hall County was previously split under the map passed during the special session in seven parts, and this reduces that to 4. The other change is in the Carrollton area, where an individual member of the House was elected in a special election, and by virtue of that would have been paired with another incumbent running under the new maps, and so they uncoupled those into what was an open district, or what would have been an open district, using the maps passed during the special session. You should have the maps in front of you, and I would ask your favorable consideration. Mr. President, I would like to reserve the right to close debate, and will probably wait for questions at that point if I could.
Chair has the right to yield the well. Chair recognizes Senator from 39th speak to the House maps.
I am a little bit caught unaware, unprepared, without having the opportunity to ask questions of the author, but I understand the technique involved. The fact of the matter is that the House map that was passed last year coupled several incumbents on the House side, including several African American Democratic incumbents. What I would have asked the chairman of the Reapportionment Committee, if he had taken questions at this time, I would have asked him, was there any consideration given over on the House side or in committee of making changes which would have uncoupled any of those Democrats, particularly African American Democrats? The fact of the matter is, in my town in Atlanta, there are incumbents, African American, a set of African American incumbents coupled in that district, and it took some doing. If you know the city of Atlanta, it took a district from East Point, almost into East Point, all the way through a narrow band through the inner city of Atlanta, all the way over to East Atlanta, almost from 285 to 285. And so I understand, and it may be a good thing that the incumbents, the Republican incumbents, are uncoupled with this bill, but there should have been given due consideration to the incumbents that have been coupled here in the city of Atlanta and throughout the metro Atlanta area. It's unfortunate, and it's not fair, it's wrong, and for that reason, I will be voting against the bill and will hope that you will vote against the bill as well. Mr. President, I yield the will unless there are questions.
No questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? As the objection agreed in the report of committee, which favor pass the bill, chairs none, report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put, or the objection, chairs none, main question is ordered? Shall this bill now pass? Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 35 and the nays are 19. This bill, having zero constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair, are there any senators wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move immediate transmittal of House Bill 829 to the House.
Is there objection? Without objection, we will immediately transmit back to the House. Chair recognizes Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's been a long day, but I just want to take a moment to bring to everyone's attention the importance of this date, February 23rd. It's a date that in history really should be remembered along with the 4th of July and the 17th of September as one of the greatest dates in the history of the cause of liberty. Because it was on February 23rd in the year 1807 that William Wilberforce put forward a motion in the House of Commons to abolish the practice of the slave trade throughout the British Empire. And it was that single moment that led not only to the abolition of the slave trade, but the abolition of chattel slavery. It is one of the greatest moments in human history. And I just think it's worthwhile to take just a moment today, 205 years later, to acknowledge that achievement, that one man who labored for 20 years bringing that bill forward over and over again amidst all sorts of opposition, death threats. It was extremely politically unpopular. But he knew, and those that voted with him on that early February morning, that they were on the right side of history. So I think that's a good thing for all of us to remember this February 23rd. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of this body. February is Black History Month, and in honor of Black History Month, the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus is holding its annual Heritage Dinner at the Freight Depot today at 6 p.m. I would like to extend an invitation to all of the members of this body to join us. I've gotten word that the governor will be there, lieutenant governor will be there, and our speaker is Ambassador Andrew Young. So again, in commemoration and celebration of Black History Month, I would like to invite all of my colleagues to come and join the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus today, 6 p.m., Freight Depot. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. I'll be there doing the jig with the senator from the 35th, 44th, 34th. I mean, life's going to be good tonight, I'm sure. Making the senator from the 2nd jealous. Chair recognizes senator from the 39th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know the president thinks I'm compensating for being absent from the well earlier in the session.
Whoa. Don't make up for lost time.
But very seriously, I wanted to explain a vote that I took earlier today. Earlier this morning, I voted as a singular vote against the local consent calendar. And there's a method to that. I'm very concerned that we have a redistricting going on in Fulton County. And from what we know, the scuttlebutt that we have heard is that the Fulton County redistricting is not going to go forward until next year because there are people who want the new map, the new legislative map to go into effect next year before Fulton County Commission districts are redone, revised. There's a problem with that. There's a very real problem with that. As you know, in the redistricting that we did last year in Fulton County, the county which is overwhelmingly minority will be have a delegation that is overwhelmingly white. The delegation that is overwhelming of the county that is overwhelmingly Democrat will be overwhelmingly Republican. So it will be politically and racially gerrymandered. It will be that minority residents will be essentially disfranchised with this new map. I am glad to hear that the Fulton County Commission map, from what I understand from the chair of the delegation, the senator from the 38th, will be taken up this afternoon for a hearing. And we appreciate the hearing. We appreciate the opportunity for the public to come down here and see what is done. But that map deserves not only a hearing, it deserves to be passed on. We should not abrogate, we should not do injury or further injury, rather, to the delegation process and how local bills are moved forward. That's a local bill. It is a local bill that should be moved forward. in the process as all other local bills are moved along. Now, this is not just about Fulton County. It's about Augusta-Richmond County. It's about Macon-Bibb County and all other counties and delegations that have been gerrymandered in this way. Fulton County is just the most obscene example, but please be very clear. If it ain't you today, it could very well be you at another time. Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator from 21st, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Read the announcements.
Rules is meeting upon adjournment, 4:50 in the Capitol. 2 p.m. Education and Youth is 307 CLOB. 1 p.m. Insurance and Labor has been canceled. 2 p.m. Special Judiciary, 125 in the Capitol. 3 p.m. Finance, 310 in the Capitol. 3 p.m. State Institutions and Property, 307 CLOB. 3 p.m. Insurance and Labor Subcommittee, 125 in the Capitol. 4 p.m. Regulated Industries and Utilities, 450 in the Capitol. 4 p.m. Transportation, 310 CLOB. 5 p.m. Public Safety, 125 in the Capitol. 5 p.m. Reapportionment and Redistricting, 310 CLOB.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th.
There's going to be a meeting on the constitutional amendment for charter schools. It'll start at 2:15 for those of you that are interested in attending in room 307. So there'll be a special meeting, a subcommittee meeting on the constitutional amendment for charter schools starting at 2:15 in 307. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to thank the Senate for the hard work today, moving the bills forward in the great debate. The majority leaders move. We stand adjourned till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Noes are clearly weak, and ayes have it. We stand adjourned.